Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through a stack of sources to bring you the most important nuggets of knowledge, helping you get well-informed fast. Today, we're diving headfirst into an incredible, often unseen world right beneath our feet. We're talking about a surprising and really ancient partnership that literally sustains nearly all life on land. Our focus for this deep dive: mycorrhizal fungi.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The name itself gives us a clue. Myco means fungi, and rhiza means a root. So mycorrhiza, it perfectly describes this symbiotic relationship between fungi and plant roots.
Okay, symbiotic.
Exactly. And this isn't just some, evolutionary side note. It's profound. Ancient. We're talking the Ordovician period, roughly 480 million years ago.
Wow, that far back?
That far back. So this partnership was foundational. It actually enabled plants to successfully colonize land in the first place. And here's the kicker. Over 90% of all plant species today still rely on these vital associations.
90%. That's astonishing. An ancient alliance still going strong. And to help visualize these vast hidden networks, a lot of people call them the Wood Wide Web, right?
That's the popular term, yeah. It paints a good picture of the interconnectedness.
Right. And our mission in this deep dive is basically to give you a shortcut to truly understanding these crucial biological partners, uncovering their secrets and, their significance. So now that we have the ancient history down, I'm really curious, how does this incredible microscopic collaboration actually work, like day to day?
Okay, so it's a textbook example of mutualism. Both partners get something vital out of the deal. The fungi, they're incredibly good at exploring the soil. They extend these vast networks of microscopic thread-like strands. We call them hyphae.
Hyphae.
And
Right.
together, these form an extensive mycelium. Think of it like an underground superhighway system. This mycelial network is remarkably efficient. It can cover, get this, up to 700 times more soil surface than the plant's roots can alone.
700 times. Seriously.
Seriously. It literally mines the soil for water and a whole treasure trove of nutrients. For example, plants can get up to 80% of their phosphorus from these fungi, plus essential nitrogen, sulfur, even vital microminerals like copper and zinc.
So the fungi are bringing the feast to the plant. What does the plant offer in return for this incredible delivery service? Sounds like a pretty sweet deal for the plant.
It is, yeah, but it's definitely reciprocal. In return for those critical resources, the plant gives the fungi photosynthetically fixed carbon, basically the sugars it produces from sunlight.
Simple sugars.
Well, for a long time, we thought it was just sugars. But recent discoveries have surprisingly shown that plants also transfer lipids fats to the fungi.
Fats, really?
Yeah, and this is actually a crucial finding because some types of these fungi, they lack the cellular machinery to make their own fats. They completely rely on the plant for these vital building blocks.
So it's not just a sugar swap. It's like a full-on nutritional dependency for the fungi in some ways. How does this exchange physically happen, like inside the plant root?
Right, so within the plant roots, there are key fungal structures for this exchange. The most important are called arbuscules.
Arbuscules, okay.
Imagine tiny, highly branched, almost tree-like structures forming inside the plant's root cells. These are the primary interface for all that nutrient exchange. They're surrounded by a specialized membrane from the plant. And the space between that membrane and the fungal cell wall even becomes slightly acidified, which helps energize the transport of nutrients across. It's quite sophisticated.
Wow.
And the plant even creates a special pathway, almost like a temporary welcome mat. It's called the pre-penetration apparatus, or PPA. It basically guides the fungus into its root cells.
That's quite an elaborate setup for a microscopic partnership. Must be some kind of signaling involved, right? A way for them to talk to each other to get this whole thing started and keep it going.
Absolutely. There's this fascinating chemical conversation going on, almost like a secret code. The plant roots release signals called strigolactones. That essentially tells the fungi, hey, I'm open for business. And in response, the fungi secrete their own chemical messages called lipochido-oligosaccharides, LCOs for short. These activate a shared internal communication pathway within the plant. We call it the Common Symbiosis Signaling Pathway, or CSSP. And that effectively kicks off and maintains the whole partnership.
A chemical handshake, basically.
Pretty much. And just to clarify, while there are different types of mycorrhizal fungi, or deep dive today, we're mainly focusing on arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AM fungi. These are the most common type. They're considered endomycorrhizal because their structures, like those arbuscules, form within the plant root cells.
Endo, meaning inside. Got it.
Exactly. While other types, like ectomycorrhizal fungi, form sheaths around roots, AMF are the ones you'll most commonly find with our everyday garden and agricultural plants.
That microscopic dance is truly remarkable. Okay, let's zoom out now. How does this incredible partnership scale up? How does it impact entire ecosystems, maybe even the planet's stability? What are the broader implications?
Well, they're absolutely fundamental. Mycorrhizal fungi are fundamental to the health and resilience of terrestrial ecosystems. It goes way beyond just nutrient uptake. Take, for instance, how they bolster a plant's defenses.
Defenses. Against what?
Against various environmental challenges, what we call abiotic stresses. We've seen really well-documented cases of increased resistance to drought in crops like tomatoes, also greater tolerance to heat, high salinity.
So they're like built-in climate resilience for plants. That's amazing.
Exactly. And it's not just about the environment. They also show increased resistance to pests and pathogens, everything from aphids to budworm.
Okay, wow.
And one really fascinating aspect of this protective role is something called priming.
Priming.
Yeah, imagine a plant's immune system getting a heads up. Mycorrhizal plants are essentially prepared to react faster and stronger to attacks. It's like an early warning system that can even protect the entire plant systemically, not just the parts directly connected.
How does that work? Like through the network?
It seems so. This involves the transfer of defensive infochemicals, things like salicylic acid, jasminates, terpenoids, through the fungal network. It's like they're warning neighboring plants about a threat.
That's incredible. Underground warning systems. And it's not just about protecting individual plants, is it? You mentioned ecosystems.
Oh, yeah.
Does it affect the soil itself?
Oh, absolutely. Profoundly. The dense hyphal network created by these fungi, it acts like an invisible web. It forms this three-dimensional matrix that literally enmeshes and cross-links soil particles together.
Like a net.
Exactly like a net. And this process forms stable aggregates, clumps of soil, but without compacting it. It's a natural way to significantly improve soil fertility, increase its water holding capacity, which is super crucial in dry, sandy soils, and protect the soil from erosion by wind and water. Plus, the fungi produce this significant soil glycoprotein called glomalin.
Glomalin.
Glomalin, or sometimes called glomalin-related soil proteins, GRSPs. It acts like a biological glue, further binding those soil particles together.
So it's like an invisible underground glue holding everything together. Does this physical binding have, I don't know, broader implications, maybe even for something as big as climate change?
It absolutely does. These glomalin proteins, they contribute significantly to carbon sequestration.
Really? How?
Well, they can account for maybe 2 to 5% of total organic carbon in the soil. And crucially, they protect other organic carbon from breaking down. Glomalin's estimated half-life can range from several years to decades, so it's a stable, long-term carbon sink. It plays an important role in fighting climate change.
Wow, I had no idea. Blocking carbon away for decades.
Exactly. And beyond that, AMF improves soil structure, and they directly take up nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil solution before they can wash away. Mycorrhizal soils just hold on to that soil solution better. This significantly reduces nutrient leaching into groundwater, sometimes by as much as 50%.
50% reduction in leaching. That's huge for preventing water pollution and keeping nutrients in the soil.
It is. It promotes long-term soil fertility.
Okay, so circling back to that Wood Wide Web idea, what's the latest on how these networks actually facilitate communication between plants? Is it truly like an underground internet, or is the science still kind of debating that?
It's a really fascinating area, and yeah, the idea that these networks facilitate communication, even between different species, maybe signaling stress or pest attacks, that's gained a lot of traction. And the scientific community has definitely shown, using isotopic labeling, like with 13C or 14C, that carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, even other elements get transferred between plants via these networks.
Okay, so transfer happens.
Transfer definitely happens. What's still debated is the mechanism and the significance. Is it truly a directed internet where plants are actively communicating and sharing resources strategically? Or is it more like a passive commons, where resources just move along concentration gradients in the soil environment that the fungi create and manage?
Right, intention versus just passive flow.
Precisely. It's complex to track these specific signals versus just general soil chemistry. It's a really fascinating puzzle for researchers.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's easier to prove the transfer happened than why it happened. But the implications are still mind-blowing. I've heard terms like underground socialism thrown around. Can you explain that a bit?
Right. That idea stems from the possibility of cooperation, where maybe weaker or shaded plants might receive resources transferred through the network from stronger neighbors.
Helping each other out.
Potentially, yes. And what's really fascinating is some research showing kinship might play a role. More resources exchanged between, well, it certainly adds complexity, doesn't it? But mycoheterotrophs are relatively rare compared to the huge number of plants in mutualistic partnerships. Their existence just highlights the incredible diversity of survival strategies out there.
Okay, that makes sense. So moving from the purely ecological, let's look at how all this amazing science translates into practical applications, particularly in agriculture. How are these fungi being used in farming? What are the benefits and maybe what are the challenges?
Right. Well, the commercial market for AMF products, things like inoculants, has seen really considerable growth. Forecasts predict it could reach something like US $11.45 billion by 2026. So there's clearly immense interest and perceived value there.
Big business.
Becoming so, yes. And in agriculture and horticulture, the benefits can be quite compelling. We've seen lots of studies showing increased crop health and yield. There was a large meta-analysis, for example, on potato production. It looked at 231 field trials across Europe and North America. On average, they saw a yield increase of 3.9 tons per hectare.
Wow, just from the fungi.
Associated with the inoculation, yes. That represents about a 9.5% total crop yield increase. And importantly, nearly 80% of those trials proved profitable for the farmers.
Profitable too, that's key. And speaking of benefits, a very recent study caught my eye, July 2025, I think, about how these fungi might even improve the nutritional value of our food. Something about bread wheat.
Ah, yes, that's very exciting work. That research looked at bread wheat inoculated with the common AM fungus, Rhizophagus irregularis, and it showed a remarkable benefit. The grains were larger, yes, but they also had significantly more zinc and phosphorus.
More nutrients in the food itself.
Exactly. And crucially, the increased phosphorus did not lead to an increase in phytate. Phytate is an anti-nutrient that can block the absorption of minerals like zinc and iron. So you get more zinc and phosphorus, and it's more bioavailable. It's a really promising, sustainable way to potentially biofortify global crops and help tackle nutrient deficiencies.
That's huge potential for global health.
It really is. And beyond yield and nutrition, AMF also promote more robust root system development. They also really help in the critical weaning stage for micropropagated plantlets, tiny fruit trees like apple and peach grown in labs. In nurseries, AMS inoculation improves their growth and nutrient uptake, leading to healthier plants when they're finally transplanted out. And of course, their ability to enhance nutrient uptake often means farmers can potentially reduce chemical fertilizer application without losing yield. That's a big win for sustainability and the farmer's bottom line.
So it's not just traditional farming. What about wider ecological restoration?
Yeah.
Can we use these fungal allies to help heal degraded landscapes, damaged soils?
Definitely. That's another really promising area. In renaturation, reforestation, landscaping projects, AMF inoculation helps young trees establish, grow, and survive, especially in challenging, dry climates. Think about the Moroccan argan tree or cypress trees, or even using mesquite to stabilize sand dunes. The fungi give them a much better shot at survival, help combat erosion, and improve fertility in those degraded areas.
Helping nature bounce back.
Exactly. And there's also significant bioremediation potential.
Bioremediation. Cleaning up pollution.
Right. Mycorrhizal fungi can help plants grow in soils contaminated with heavy metals. The fungi might accumulate and sequester the toxins themselves, kind of protecting the plant, or in some cases, they might actually deliver the metals to the plant for phytoextraction.
Phytoextraction, pulling metals out with plants.
Yeah, the idea is you harvest the plants to remove the metals from the soil over time. But it's important to acknowledge the challenges there. Often the plants that are good at accumulating metals are quite small, and sometimes high levels of pollution can actually reduce AMF colonization. So it's a complex application, not always straightforward.
Okay, that all sounds incredibly promising, like a natural solution toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the hurdles, the limitations when we try to apply this in the real world? You mentioned context earlier. Are there times it just doesn't work, or maybe even backfires?
That's a critical question, and yes, there are definitely challenges. One of the biggest is that context dependency we touched on. The benefits are highly variable. They depend on a really complex interplay of environmental conditions, soil type, climate, water availability, plus the specific plant species or even genotype and the particular fungal strain used.
So what works for potatoes in one field might not work for wheat next door?
Exactly. Potatoes, for instance, seem to respond more consistently than wheat in many studies, so a one-size-fits-all approach with inoculants rarely works effectively. Another major issue is the impact of conventional agricultural practices. Modern farming, unfortunately, often disrupts AMF populations.
How so?
Well, repeated tillage, plowing, that physically severs the delicate fungal hyphae in the topsoil, damaging the network. High phosphorus fertilizer application can also suppress AMF activity. If the plant is getting plenty of phosphorus easily, it has less incentive to invest energy in forming and maintaining that symbiotic partnership.
Ah, it makes the plant lazy in a way.
You could put it that way, yeah. And also certain biocides, fungicides, obviously, but even some herbicides and insecticides can harm the fungi. Plus, crop rotations that include non-host plants like the Brassicaceae family, that's broccoli, cabbage, canola, mustard, they don't form these partnerships. So growing them repeatedly can reduce the fungal abundance and diversity in the soil over time.
So we're sometimes inadvertently working against these beneficial fungi. What about the products themselves, the commercial inoculants you mentioned? Are they reliable?
That's another big hurdle, frankly. The inconsistency of commercial inoculants. There was one study quite concerning that found something like 35% over a third of the commercial products they tested contained no viable fungi whatsoever.
None. So people are plants or dust.
Essentially, yes, in some cases. And in that same study, only 16% of the products actually successfully colonized plants when applied according to instructions. It really highlights a critical need for better quality control, some kind of regulation framework to ensure product efficacy. Farmers need to know they're getting viable fungal propagules, no pathogens, and clear labeling about what's actually in the bag and how to use it. Without that, it's just guesswork.
Yeah, that lack of quality control sounds like a major roadblock to wider adoption. Now, given how specific these plant-fungi relationships can be, you mentioned strains. Can we actually breed these fungi? Can we optimize them for certain crops or conditions?
That's a really interesting question, and it's difficult with traditional breeding methods, much harder than breeding plants or animals. Part of the reason is their unique genetic makeup. They're often syncytial, meaning they have multiple nuclei within a continuous cytoplasm, not neat separate cells like us. And many don't really have a known sexual reproduction stage. They mostly propagate clonally.
So standard breeding techniques don't apply easily.
Not easily, no. However, there is a process called hyphal fusion or anastomosis, where the hyphae of two compatible strains can actually fuse together and exchange genetic material. This does offer a potential path to sort of breed fungi for improved symbiotic traits, maybe better drought tolerance with corn or more efficient phosphorus uptake for wheat. But it requires a lot of careful screening to find those compatible strains and then test the resulting combinations to see if they actually perform better with specific plants under specific conditions. It's complex work.
Right, not straightforward at all. Okay, so for farmers, and maybe for us listeners at home in our gardens, what are the best practices to encourage the healthy mycorrhizal fungi that are likely already present in our soil? How can we support this hidden workforce without necessarily relying on commercial products that might be hit or miss?
That's really the key question, I think. Supporting the native populations. The most important practices really revolve around mimicking natural, undisturbed ecosystems as much as possible. First, and perhaps most importantly, reduce soil disturbance. Minimize tilling or plowing, or better yet, adopt no-till practices. Most of the mycorrhizal action, the spores and hyphae, is concentrated in the top 10-15 centimeters, maybe 4-6 inches, of soil. Physical disturbance just shreds that network.
Less digging, more fungi. Makes sense.
Second, incorporate organic matter. Continuously add things like compost, leaf litter, well-rotted manure, or use organic mulches. This provides a vital food source for the fungi and all sorts of other beneficial soil life. Plus, it improves soil structure, making it a much more hospitable environment.
Feed the soil, basically.
Exactly. Third, practice diverse planting and use cover crops. Plant a wide variety of species, trees, shrubs, perennials, annuals, and rotate your crops if you're gardening or farming. Critically, avoid leaving soil bare or fallow for extended periods. Studies show bare soil can lose up to 40% of its fungal abundance fairly quickly. Diverse plants support diverse fungi, keep something growing.
Keep the roots active. Got it.
Fourth, avoid the overuse of chemicals, especially synthetic fertilizers, particularly high phosphorus ones, as we discussed, but also be mindful of chemical weed killers, pesticides, and especially fungicides, which can directly harm the mycorrhizal fungi. Use them sparingly and only when absolutely necessary.
Less chemicals, more natural balance.
Precisely. And finally, maybe know your plants. Just be aware that some plant families, notably the brassica family, again, that's cabbage, broccoli, kale, radishes, canola, they simply do not form mycorrhizal associations. They have other strategies. Also, ericaceous or lime-hating plants like rhododendrons, azaleas, blueberries, they require specific, different types of mycorrhizal fungi, not the common AMF type. And if you do decide to try a commercial inoculant, try to source one from a reputable company. Maybe look for certifications if available, like RHS licensed products in the UK, to improve your chances of getting a viable product.
Right. So focus on soil health fundamentals. Minimize disturbance, add organic matter, keep diverse plants growing, reduce chemicals, and understand your specific plants. That seems like a solid plan.
Yeah.
From that microscopic exchange of nutrients deep in the root all the way up to their massive impacts on soil health, carbon storage, climate change mitigation, and even potentially the nutritional quality of our food. The role of mycorrhizal fungi is truly incredible, multifaceted. It completely reshapes how I think about the ground beneath my feet.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think it's important to underscore that these beneficial fungal populations, they're already there in most soils. They've co-evolved with plants over hundreds of millions of years. The key isn't always about introducing something new from a packet. Often, it's about supporting and encouraging the growth and health of the fungi already present through these kinds of sustainable nature-mimicking practices. They're already there, just waiting for us to give them a chance to thrive and do their essential work.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given their absolutely fundamental role in enabling almost all plant life on Earth, supporting biodiversity, holding soils together, influencing climate, and even holding potential to sustainably improve agriculture and human nutrition, should we maybe start viewing the health of this hidden wood wide web as equally critical to our collective future as the health of the visible ecosystems we see above ground? Something to think about next time you're walking through a forest, or maybe even just looking at your own garden soil.